This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Mike Sedita.
Good afternoon. Welcome to episode 54 of the Good Neighbor Podcast. My name is Mike Sedita, and I have the pleasure of being joined today by Cesar Rodriguez. He is the regional manager for Suncoast Roofing here on the west coast of Florida. Cesar, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on with us. The Good Neighbor Podcast essentially was started in 2020 in Southwest Florida. During COVID, we couldn't get out and meet with people. We had to be 6 feet apart. It was a whole big thing with making that connection. And the whole principle behind the Good Neighbor Podcast is you guys are business, you're a local business. I'm a local business owner. The idea is to get businesses in front of the community. And in the 3 years since we got started, now we're a national podcast. We are in Virginia, Atlanta, all over the East Coast. And I'm the person here in Tampa that has the pleasure of talking to business owners and finding out a little bit about what makes them tick. And with that in mind, tell us a little bit about Suncoast Roofing. Tell us about your business.
So Suncoast Roofing is a family-owned business. We have 5 branches throughout the state of Florida. We service the entire great state of Florida. We are GAF Master Elite Installers. We've been President Club winners, I think, 8 years in a row, and we just got bumped up to a 3-star President's Club, which there's only 30 roofing companies in the entire country that hold that designation. We are 3
And what group is that through, Cesar? So if you're President Club certified, 3-time President Club certified, who is giving out that distinction?
GAF Roofing, the manufacturer. They are the oldest and largest shingle manufacturer in the United States. They've been around since the late 1800s, and it is very hard to get that designation. 3-star President's Club, it was a big deal. They flew us out to their headquarters. There was a big award ceremony. And basically what that means is the company whose shingles we install trust us above anybody else. Only 30 companies in the country have this to install their products correct and to give the longest warranties on the market.
Okay. And so, not to get into a whole political discussion off of this, because there is some politics involved in this, and roofers are kind of centered around part of this, right? So all of my businesses in some way kind of, they melt together or touch each other in some degree of separation. But one of the big things that's going on in the state of Florida is homeowners insurance is going through the roof. And part of that is, and I'm not saying you guys, but and that's why I want to point this out.
It is because of roofers.
It's because of roofers, right?
Roofers. You don't have to sugarcoat it. It is.
So that is a big designation. So that is a huge differentiator when the manufacturer you're talking to, working with is saying, this is one of our guys. So if people are listening to this, they got to be saying to themselves, hey, look, there are these roofers that go door to door and say, hey, let me inspect your roof and find one shingle out of whack. I'll replace your whole roof. Yeah. Oh, that all sounds great on the front end, but the trickle down effect of that is killing the market, right? I mean,
somebody has to pay for it. And that's what people forget. So you get enough fraudulent claims over and over and over again, $30,000 roof because of one shingle missing. And they litigate, and all the lawyers' costs and all of that is being absorbed by the insurance companies. You get what we have now.
Right.
You get all the insurance companies are running out of Florida. I just purchased a new home, so I know what it's like to try to get homeowners insurance, and it was not fun.
Right.
You are very limited on options. My business model, the owner who's on the East Coast, his business model is we don't knock on doors. We don't come to your house uninvited. You have to call one of our offices or go to our website and schedule for us to come out there. Then we'll come on your property. And if you're missing one shingle, I'm going to tell you that that's a very easy repair that's lower than your deductible, that you do not need a new roof. Has that cost me a lot of business? I'm sure it has, but I can sleep at night knowing that I'm not part of the problem.
And that's kind of the reason I bring it up is that, listen, if you're a homeowner listening to this podcast and you're hearing a company say to you, our brand credibility far outweighs the handful of jobs that we're going to get. And in the long run, when all this stuff eventually washes out, it's companies like Suncoast Roofing that are going to be standing at the end of it, because the guys, it's so funny. It's the same thing with real estate agents. So many flooded the market when the market was crazy. And then when the market hit a rough patch, they all fall away. It's going to be the same thing with this. So the whole reason I kind of go off on that tangent is because you guys are certified by GAF as one of their top installers that does this in the market. And people should really take that into consideration. When you're out there searching for a roofing company, guys aren't going to come in a pickup truck and an old Oldsmobile and do the install.
Right.
These guys you licensed and bonded and all the stuff that's needed to be done, and they're going to do the job the right way, the way that is not affecting your homeowner's insurance on the road.
The way that the manufacturer who makes the products wants them installed, not the way we want them installed, the way they want them installed, so you can receive a solid warranty. And we don't use any subcontractors. Anybody that steps on your property from us is under my workman's comp, my liability. And that's just a business model that we've stuck with, because just because there's a storm doesn't mean that I go out and hire a bunch of sub crews.
Right.
I take whatever crews we have from across the state of Florida, and then we went down to Southwest Florida and we took crews from our other branches. But it's still the same crews that are always with us. We just moved, what we could from the other branches and went down there and focused on that. The difference is we didn't go out there the day after the storm and start sticking signs in people's yards and knocking on it. We appointment only. So if you lost your roof and somebody knocked on your door, these people said, well, I don't know you, but I saw this guy in the home magazine, or I saw this company here, and I'm going to call them to come out. We did a ton of retail work down there as opposed to insurance work, because we worked with the homeowners, and instead of using the insurance pricing, which is much higher, we gave them the option. If you're going to go after your own claim, we can do a retail cost for you. Let you go after the claim yourself. Do what you need to do. I'll hold on to the contract. And when you're ready and you get your insurance check, it's going to be $5,000 less than the next guy. So let's do it that way so that it's fair.
So let me walk through the process of those two things. Option A, we'll just say roofing company X comes to you and says, hey, Mr. Homeowner, I have a connection to your, I'll do everything for you. It's going to be, and I'm just using round numbers here, it's going to be $40,000, but don't worry about it. I'm going to go through your insurance company. You won't have to see a thing, feel a thing, do it. Until your insurance bill renews, but we'll take care of all of it for you and do everything and handle your insurance company. Or what you're saying is your approach is, and correct me if I'm not hearing this correctly, hey, Mr. Homeowner, we're going to do it for $35,000. We're going to bill it through you, and then you're going to go and get reimbursed through your insurance company. It's a little bit more cumbersome, but it's going to save you money, and it's the right way to do it. Is that kind of what you're saying is the approach?
We gave them the option. We can run your insurance claim if you want, but know that Xactimate pricing, because that's what the insurance companies use, is significantly higher.
Right.
So I will give you the option. If you can. If you don't have the money to do it and you have to wait for insurance, then we do it the other way. But if you'd like, I give you a retail quote, which is significantly less. You pay the deposit. That just locks us in, and we sit and wait. We don't order material. We don't do anything yet until you say, okay, it looks like they're actually going to pay for this thing.
Right.
And I would like you guys to move forward. And probably 75% of the customers did that because they could get locked in. We could have their permit waiting, and we didn't have a problem with material. And we just waited on them for them to get their money and do their claim their way. And what that does is it gives the homeowner the power to work with their insurance company, where a lot of these companies took the power away from the homeowner, and they're doing all the negotiating, and the price of the $25,000 roof went to $50,000 because of litigation and lawyers and everybody that was involved. So could I have got more business if I did things different? Yes, but I don't sleep well at night knowing that I'm taking advantage of the system.
It's definitely a karma. It's one of those karma things. People in instances like that, in tragedies that go on, like Ian last year, You see the best of humanity, which is my local Rotary Club that I'm in here in Wesley Chapel, loading up trailers after trailers after trailers and bringing it down there. But then you also see the worst of humanity and price gouging and people that are coming in just trying to make a quick
predators, the out-of-state companies that have no intention of ever following up with you once they slap the cheapest roof on there. They're gone back to Texas or Oklahoma or wherever they came from, and you're stuck holding the bag if the roof wasn't done right. And there was a lot of roofers down there that don't know Florida roofing, and they're just throwing on whatever they know from Oklahoma. And because it's a disaster area, they waive inspections and all these things, and they just let it happen. And there's people still dealing with stuff down there from previous hurricanes because their roof wasn't done right the first time.
And they were ripped off immediately because they're the first ones to get ripped. So let me ask you this. I mean, a little bit about you personally. Have you always been in the roofing business? I mean, or did you come through a different trade, or were you previously like a surgeon and decided you wanted to get out of that line of work because it was too stressful and now you do roofing? What's your story as far as
I don't know how far you want me to go back, but in Tampa, I used to own bars and lounges for years. And I had my first daughter, and being out till 3:00 in the morning, closing down my bars and doing the things that it takes to run 3 or 4 bars, it just wasn't conducive to having a new child. So I ended up letting go of the bar business, letting go of the liquor licenses, and I decided to get into recovery at that time too. So I got sober.
And when you say recovery, kind of expand. I know what you're talking about, but expand upon that a little bit.
So I quit all drugs, alcohol, anything that was a negative thing in my life, and went through a 12-step program to better my life because I had a new child and I wanted to be there for my child and be the best version of myself that I could. All I've ever known is the bar business. That's what my father did. That's what I did. So I went and I took all these courses and worked on my recovery, got a solid foundation. This is almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I first went into the insulation field, then into roofing, solar insulation altogether. I got certified through BPI on it. I've done continued education since day one. I still do it. There's always more to learn. But that transition, the way that it went, I started as a salesman, then a manager, and then worked my way up. Then I came to this company, which I was recruited to come to this company, and I was supposed to come in as a manager, and I still did it the same way. Nope, ground up. Let me go out with the superintendents, then let me sell the products, let me learn, and then work my way into management. Because if you don't know every aspect of what you're doing, how can you run it? You can't be in charge of it if you don't know what it is. So that brought me here, and I mean, I found a home and I found family here. The owner and his wife are fantastic. They treat their employees better than anybody I've ever seen. And that culture translates down to the 3 branches that I run on the West Coast. We have a culture of taking care of our people and taking care of our customers.
So a couple quick things off of that. So let's briefly give a little bit of a shout out to your owner, who I'm assuming found you through either insulation or solar or roofing and said, hey, come on here. So who is the owner of Suncoast Roofing? Do we want to shout him out and give him a little bit of props?
Rick Tauscher and Michelle Tauscher out of New Smyrna Beach, Florida. They are the best owners of any business I've ever met. You ought to see what our Christmas party looks like.
Well, listen, I'm expecting an invitation now. So another part of that too is, listen, being in recovery, and we touched on it a little bit before the podcast started, is I'm very familiar with the recovery world. I'm very familiar with it through familial situation that I've had and some of the people I've interacted with. So I know it fairly well. So there aren't a ton of, now there, having been involved in 12-step programs, there are really great stories in there, but the general public seems to think that, once a user, always a user, and that person has no shot at redemption and being a productive member of society. So I like to really point out that stories like yours, stories like, Azteca de Oro, Victor, who owns and runs Azteca de Oro in Wesley Chapel, also on the podcast recently, talks about struggles. And, listen, admitting there's a problem is the first step, right? I mean, making that admission that I have a problem to get on and move on to it, and then building the foundation to grow and be able to do the things and reach the heights that you've reached. But the big thing that a lot of people don't understand who aren't involved in recovery or understand recovery is it truly is the cliche of it's one day at a time truly is something you have to live by and be able to run your life that way. Because, man, you grew up in the bar business. That is the lifestyle. That is what that lifestyle is. So my big question out of all of that is, how is your daughter? How old is she now? She's got to be what, 10, 11 years old at this point?
11 years old, and I got married in sobriety, and she brought a daughter in, same age. They're 6 months apart.
Okay.
We have a beautiful life. They are both straight A students. They're just a blessing every day. They don't know anything other than responsible, reliable, good old dad always shows up. And that was the goal, was to take any doubt away. I didn't want her growing up
having that picture in her head.
Yeah. Is dad going to get arrested? Is dad not going to be here tomorrow? So she never experienced any of that stuff because I put that plan into action and followed through with it. And I live it to today. Yeah. One day at a time I can't live by what I did yesterday. I got to put in the work every single day. And that translates into my work ethic, everything else that I do. Yesterday's sales aren't going to keep this company running today.
Right.
Yesterday's sobriety is not going to keep me sober today. So you're only as good as your last job. And that plays into my customer service because nobody remembers 100 perfect jobs. They remember the one
bad job. That's right. And it's the same thing with recovery. You could have 1,000 days of recovery behind you. It's that one
bad day, and it sets the whole thing.
It could set the whole thing down. So listen, we'll kind of touch a little bit more on some of the stuff you do in recovery here in a minute, but tell us a little bit about some myths and misconceptions in the roofing business, because a lot of things do change. You said it a minute ago about roofers that come in from Oklahoma and Georgia and wherever else they're coming from. One of the big things that goes on in roofing here that plays very much into it, and you also touched on it, is solar. How do solar panels, break some of the myths? Do solar panels really void your roof?
Yes.
So that's some of the stuff people need to understand. So you could put a brand new roof on your house tomorrow. If you add solar to it, you are basically saying that roof is now your responsibility, correct?
Correct. So let me break it down for you. We are Suncoast Roofing and solar. So we do solar. If you're going out and you're getting a new roof and you're adding solar, and I'm not saying it has to be me, but find the company that's going to do the roofing and the solar and warranty everything together.
Okay.
Because the shingle manufacturer's warranty is going to be voided by the penetrations you put in that roof to put a rack mounted system on.
Okay.
So what we do, we partner with another company and we match warranties. So our golden pledge is 25 years on labor and workmanship. The company that's installing the panels has 25 years against leaks. And what that means is if you have a leak caused by the panel, he calls me, I go fix it, he pays me.
Gotcha.
The money's out of his pocket because it's his solar that's leaking. But you have seamless, problem-free service because all you're really doing is calling me and saying, hey, I got a leak. And I go find out it's the panels. I take pictures to prove it, and I just fix it, and I send him the bill.
Right.
But we've been working together for a decade in the insulation business, too. The same guy. We've 10 years been working together, and that's who I trust. And we build these relationships where I know he's not going anywhere. He knows I'm not going anywhere. Every solar job he does outside of this company, he uses Suncoast Roofing to do the roof because he knows what service he's going to get. So it's a beneficial relationship between the two of us.
And that is a different entity entirely. That's not under the Suncoast Roofing umbrella. Right. There's a whole other solar company.
That's for rack mounted. Suncoast Roofing and Solar can install GAF, Timberline HTZ shingle solar now. So there's actually solar shingles out there. They're fairly new. They came out this year. And if we're installing solar shingles and your shingle roof, then everything's held under one warranty under us.
Gotcha.
And then the third party doesn't come in. We
At
only ourselves install GAF's products. So if whatever it may be, if you're getting a metal roof from us, obviously a GAF system doesn't go on that because that's a shingle roof thing.
Right.
Then we bring in our installer and say, hey, we need a rack mount that clips in to a standing seam roof so we don't put penetrations in it. And that's where he comes into play.
So that was kind of my next myth or misconception is from, okay, so give me a little bit of statistics here. I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but you guys install, give me a ballpark, X number of roofs a year. Just your locations, just the West Coast. Is it 100 roofs a year, 200 roofs a year, 50 roofs a year?
Let me pull out my calculator.
Oh, okay. So it can't be done on fingers and toes. We need the calculator.
Like 1,500 roofs a year.
Okay, so 1,500 roofs a year.
On my side.
On the West Coast. So estimate for me 1,500 roofs a year. How many are shingle? How many are metal? And are you seeing the trend going towards more metal roofs?
That's changing. Yeah, that has been changing this year. It used to be 75% shingle roof.
Or
and
tile.
Then the rest was tile and metal.
Okay.
What I'm seeing is, especially in the areas down Southwest Florida,
that are getting hammered
because they already had tile, but a ton of people switching from shingle to metal because the metal performs so well. It didn't budge. Now, there is a caveat to that our HDZ Golden Pledge roofs that were down there, very, very little damage and they were covered. So we went down there, we just replaced cap, really is the only thing that blew off. And I had a couple of shingle roofs that were on Fort Myers Beach, right off the beach, that didn't get the roof, that the shingles did not get destroyed. So I tried to tell customers that you don't have to pay double to go to a metal roof. You just have to buy a really good shingle roof. So again, we give them the options.
So let me ask you this, from going back to the insurance thing. If I'm a homeowner and I'm looking to redo my roof, is there any insurance benefit that trickles down if I go do now a metal roof because it performs better? Is there some sort of benefit to doing that? Pay the extra on the roof, but it gives me a little bit of relief on the insurance?
There is. And the main thing that plays into is, since we're dealing with all of this insurance companies leaving, they're starting to send letters out at like 15 years on roofs that are warranted for 25 and have nothing wrong with them. And they're saying you need to replace it at 15 years. They're giving a much longer grace period on a metal roof. They're not even making a phone call till 25 years and saying, hey, I might need to send somebody out to inspect your metal roof, but they're not pushing you to change it like that.
Okay.
I've replaced more roofs this year with nothing wrong with them at all. Than I can count because of insurance companies. And it breaks my heart. I go up, it's not even our roofs. Somebody installed a really nice roof. It's in great shape, but they've got a letter that says they've got 6 months to replace their roof just because it hit 17, 18 years. And it's just a number that they're looking at.
Let me ask you this. I deal with contractors, with this and what I do in my communities around Tampa. Talk to contractors all the time. In the flooring industry, the trend has gone from they still do a lot of nice tile flooring, but that vinyl flooring has become kind of the trend. Is there, because in the roofing, and the reason I bring that up is in the roofing side, everybody, people seem to love the look of that tile roof. It's kind of got that Mediterranean, South Florida, that look. But out of all of the roofs, is that the one that holds up is that the one that requires the most maintenance, right? Because it's fragile.
It's fragile, and it's only as good as the system that's underneath it. A tile roof is not really a waterproof roof. Water gets underneath that tile. So your secondary water barrier is kind of your roof with those things. They're very expensive to work on. Yes, they're beautiful. If you're rich and you've got just a huge house and you want it to look like a Mediterranean castle, by all means.
Knock yourself out.
Average middle-class person, if you're thinking about going with tile, there's so many better options. It's everything about it is expensive and time-consuming.
Right.
From the time somebody signs a contract and we order, we're lucky if we can get tile in the door in 4 or 5 months.
So there is materials. There is that's more difficult to get than everything else you guys work with.
I don't even have an issue with anything else. There's no shortage. There's no anything except tile because it's Southwest Florida and there was a ton of tile roofs down there. They're backed up. They can't produce it fast enough.
Listen, honestly, for me, it's probably great for everybody's economy because the insurance companies make more money. The soft wash companies make more money because in my personal opinion, I think they look beautiful until they get dirty. Once they look dirty, they look awful. I mean, to me, they look awful. Shingles, at least it runs off. You don't see anything.
Right.
So it keeps the economy for all these other businesses. They have something to do. So, all right. So we've talked about roofs. We've talked about solar. We've talked about some of your other stuff. You have 2 11-year-old-ish girls. I'm assuming when I ask what you do for fun, that is Barbie movies, Little League, or softball. I mean, what are the girls into? Because I'm sure that's the thing that you're into.
We just went to WWE Monday Night Raw.
Better.
That is what the girls wanted to do. It was one of their birthday presents, actually. We had really good seats. We went on Monday night, and I couldn't believe it when they were like, Dad, hey, we want to go to WWE. I was like, sold. I don't have any boys.
No
if I get to
Barbie
do
movies
this,
in your house. No Barbie movies. It's WWE and
so we did WWE, and it was a blast. I have one that does violin, and she's very artsy, and the other one is obsessed with basketball. She's been playing travel ball and middle school ball. And that's their thing. They're 2 different personalities, but they're like little best friends. And now we found this new connection. First time we went was this past Monday to WWE. And if you would have seen their faces and their reaction, I know we're going back.
It's like a rock concert. They
thought it was the greatest thing they'd ever seen.
So let me ask you personally, not specifically, but like what do you live in the Tampa market?
I live right outside of downtown Newport Richey is where I just moved.
Okay, so you're not far from me.
You're Cody River. I'm born and raised in South Tampa, and then I moved this way.
So you're just a little bit west. Like my one magazine is in Starkey Ranch. You're just a little bit west of there.
I just moved. The house I moved from last week was across the street from Starkey Ranch in that same Trinity area.
In Trinity. Okay, so you're right out there. Okay, so you're not far from me. I'm in Wesley Chapel, so that's not far. So the reason I asked that is just because you said your daughter plays violin. One of my clients is a music school, Bach to Rock, right in Lutz, which is not too far from you.
Yeah, I was in Lutz this morning.
They do. I mean, his place is incredible, but we could talk about that. I could talk all day about some of that stuff. We've already kind of touched on your hardship. I mean, anybody that, they say to people in recovery, they've survived hell. So any day they're not in that anymore, it's, you're kind of living the charmed life if you're not using.
We live in gratitude. That's what we do. Gratitude for the situation we have every day because it's better than what we were in. And as far as hardships, my goal in this position is to remove roadblocks to recovery. So we hire people in recovery because it's very hard sometimes for someone that's new to find a job. We're able to provide a safe workspace because nobody in this office is drinking or doing drugs.
Right.
And we've got people in the field, superintendents that are in recovery. And this platform has given me the ability to help people change their lives and do what I did. And that's important to me because there's so much stigma out there that 100%. People walk in and they say, hey, I'm in recovery, and you get thrown to the back of the pile immediately.
Right. Once an addict, always an addict. Yeah. So let me ask you this. So if someone's listening to this and, they're in a program, whatever that program is, and they're saying, I can't find some employment, you guys will do your background check, but you're not gonna eliminate somebody if they have a drug background. You guys are here to give them that second chance.
Correct. If we hire you, I'm not going to put you on somebody's house. Day one, you're going to prove yourself here, but we're going to give you the opportunity to grow. We're going to give you the opportunity to better your life. And I mean, recovery is a microcosm of the real world. Life. Not everybody that I've hired in recovery has worked out, but the people that have worked out, the ones that are grateful for the opportunity, the chance, they're the ones that move up and they become the stars of this company.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, having been involved in some of it myself, what you're saying to me sounds a lot like the first 3 steps of recovery and building your foundation of your recovery. You guys are helping them build the foundation of rebuilding their life with their career. They're not just going to go right on to, everybody that thinks about recovery thinks of, they hear the 4th step and they hear the 9th step, is making amends and making a list. Everybody gets scared by all that stuff. You're bringing people in and you're not just throwing them out there to the wolves. You're helping them to kind of build their foundation and give them a chance back at life.
Yeah. And we're going to work with them. And that's the whole thing, that it puts me in a good position to be able to tell somebody, listen, if you're stressed out and you're having a bad day and you need to take care of yourself, just let me know. You don't have to let anybody else know. Let me personally know you need to go to a meeting today at 3:00. And you have that flexibility, because I want you to be well and I want you to be able to work hard. And you can't do that if you're not taking care of yourself.
And just to, because we're kind of going to wrap this up here in a second, but it needs to be pointed out, when you have owners like Rich and Michelle who give you the ability to do that, people don't really fully grasp. Listen, everybody can make a donation back to a charity and the money goes somewhere and you don't know where it ends up trickling down to. When you're giving somebody a path back to life, you can actually literally watch it in front of your eyes, watch them.
Tangible. It's
tangible. It's a tangible response.
You can see that. You can see them get their license back, get their kids back in their lives. You can see the look in their eyes when they get the promotion and they get a little bit more money. And when they move out of the 1-bedroom apartment and get a home, I get to see all those miracles, actual miracles happening on a daily basis. And I'll never change that. And I won't fall for the stigma. I know what these people are capable of and what they can do. I'm just here to give them that opportunity, and the work is up to them.
So you kind of, with all that, we touched on kind of my last couple questions about, what we want people to know about the business and some hardships and all that stuff. But I want to give you a second. You do a recovery podcast. Why don't you just give that a little bit of a shout out about the recovery podcast? So anybody that is listening to this that might need that outlet where they can't get to a meeting, or they want to get some positive reinforcement. Tell a little bit about what you do with the podcast.
So the podcast is called The Hope Shot. You can find us on Facebook at The Hope Shot. We go live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. We talk about
Sunday nights at 8 p.m.
We talk about life. Once a month, we have a speaker on. We'll have somebody tell their stories. It's called Addiction to Success. They share what their path looked like. The other 3 weeks out of the month is myself and 3 other gentlemen just talking about what we face on a daily basis as being people in long-term recovery. It's a great introduction. If you're on the fence about it, tune in and listen to us. We're also on YouTube. The podcast is also on Apple. You can find audio only that way. I suggest you come through either YouTube or Facebook
to watch
see the faces and watch the people. We interact with the audience. We've got all the comments going up. We'll put the comments on the screen. We'll address what people are talking about. We make you feel like you're a part of it while we're doing it.
I think 2 of the things that people have a hard time with, when someone's kind of at the end of that road, they're saying to themselves, do I go into recovery? My life ends when I go into recovery, because all the fun, quote unquote fun, that I experience in using, at the end, it's not fun anymore, but I'm going to give up my life. And I think seeing examples of people, that are not only enjoying their life, whether it's going bowling or playing with their kids and doing all that stuff.
They need to see that this is not a death sentence.
Right.
And that's why I say it's better to see us on the screen, because we laugh. Everybody that's on the screen is a business owner that's got a terrible past, and they've overcome all these things. One owns a landscape business. One owns a big drywall company. I'm in the roofing industry. Right. And we're also,
there's resources and people succeeding.
Well, we're also a nonprofit. So we are the local Pasco County Recovery Community Organization.
Okay.
So we get people into transitional living. We any funds that the podcast brings in just goes straight to helping somebody get in the door of a treatment center or transitional living to give them a shot. And now that we're an RCO, we're going to get a building. And once we get the building, there's going to be resources for everything in there. And that goes back to what I said, roadblocks to recovery. We're going to help you find a job. We're going to help you find housing that's not in the hood, which is bad for you, safe housing. Right. We're going to do everything we can to get you medical, whatever you need,
right,
so that you can succeed in recovery. And we take the stigma out of this thing and make it easier for people to ask for help and not feel so shameful when they ask for help.
And helping them avoid people, places, and things that are going to just bring them right
Change
back.
Your life completely.
Right.
You know, that's what it took. My life today does not look like my life 10 years ago. And I don't want it to. I was successful 10 years ago, but that's not what I want.
When you get into recovery, you need to change one thing, and that one thing is everything. You need to just kind of reset, right? So, listen, I've had a great time here talking with you. I do appreciate your time. One last thing before we go is, and we'll include all of this. Just if you're listening to it, it's going to be included in the podcast. The ways to get a hold of Hope Shot, the ways to get a hold of Suncoast Roofing. But just throw out, what's the best way? If my roof, if I need to contact you, is it to go to the Suncoast Roofing website, fill out a form, or call the office?
Go to suncoastroofing.com. You can schedule estimates through there. You can look at all of our roofing types. You can look at our financing. You can look at our warranties. It's well put together, and it'll navigate you wherever you need to go. And that's suncoastroofing.com. Simple.
So, guys, if you're listening to this, if you need some help with your roofing, if you need solar, it could be all one-stop shop. If you contact Suncoast Roofing, all you need to do is go to suncoastroofing.com. You'll find everything you need there, and fill out the form. And a professional, a 3-star President Club certified company in one of only 30 in the entire United States is Suncoast Roofing. Cesar, thank you so much for being on with us. We really do appreciate your time. You have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Passcode. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnppasco.com. That's gnppasco.com, or call 813-922-3610.